So a year and a half ago, I decided I really hated my Mac. I've done many things since then due to this fact I did not like the touch bar on the Mac. But I'm definitely not against the Apple ecosystem. And around that same time, Apple released one of the most amazing devices on earth, which is the iPad Pro. Up until this point in time, I don't think it was just as easy to carry only an iPad and actually be productive. I was doing it, but it wasn't as good. Now with this, because we have a genuine USB-C port on here, I'm going to show you how you can actually be productive on an iPad Pro with one of these. So this is a 40% keyboard, a Vortex core. It has 47 keys. It fits in a Nintendo Switch case, which means you can put the iPad and your Switch into basically a size of a purse without having to stress too much over it. So and if you have the right dongle now, you can plug in HDMI and USB at the same time. So another key bit is being able to run your keyboard and your screen at the same time. So let's see if this works. Let's plug in. So now you're like, how do I develop? Okay, always allow. Turn. Is this not working? Are we not getting any video? Anybody have the Apple dongle on them? Because of this, I had the Apple dongle earlier and it walked off, literally. Oh, I know it's. You do? Can I borrow it real quick? Oh, here we go. There's a race. Gregor wins. Let's see if this one works. Should work. Yay! Okay, so how do you develop on an iPad? Well, first thing is like, how do I get my code on my iPad? So you can use Working Copy. And so you launch Working Copy, and I can actually now pull out repositories, see all the commits, do all the changes. I can actually git clone, I can git push, I can branch, I can do all of the things I need to do. And due to the new Apple files, I can actually see all my files in the file system like in folders. So I can now open up that same repository, see all the code. I can now edit the code using Textastic. So I have an IDE built into my local files. You go into Working Copy. I can go into Salt and actually pull and receive code right there. It does support the full. Let's see here. If we go into like a full syntax highlighting and all that jazz. If I want to run code locally, I have Pythonista available to me. So this actually allows me to run real bona fide Python. So now I can do import random and do random dot. You guys get the idea here. But it gives me a nice little IDE for doing full-blown real Python, which is nice because then I can open up code from any kind of anything that's available to the Files app inside of the iOS system, which is nice. I have the same thing set up for like GitHub browsing. So there's a Code Hub tool for actually logging into GitHub and grabbing code directly off of GitHub. Same thing for Bitbucket. If I want to debug HTTP calls, like web API calls, things like that, this HTTP flow will actually allow me to see the full web flow. So if I actually wanted to check this out, I can see that I can get the headers for any of the specific items, so I can actually do real debugging of web applications on the go. And the last thing I wanted to show you, well, two things I want to show you. Sometimes you're in an airplane at 30,000 feet and you can't get access to the internet very easily. Dash, which if you guys are on a Mac, is a Mac app that gives you offline application or offline access to your documentation. The same thing is true on the iPad. You have Dash for the iPad, full offline documentation. I don't need to be connected, and I can grab any of the docs for the things I'm using. So full docs. It's all basically based on Sphinx, the Sphinx docs. And now, if I want to run, since everyone loves Jupyter Notebooks, and the last two Lightning Talks have included Jupyter Notebooks, I feel like my Lightning Talk should also include Jupyter Notebooks. There is a Jupyter Notebook client for the iOS iPad called, what is that thing called? Juno Connect. And when you run Juno Connect, you can actually connect to a remote running kernel in the cloud someplace. So I mentioned there's Azure Notebooks, CoCalc, Binder. And so if you click on just try, this will spin up a Docker image in the cloud and run the Jupyter Notebook remotely, but using the front end right here on the iPad. So it's actually launching the container right now. and then I'll be able to actually step through, there we go, a live Jupyter Notebook running somewhere else. Come on. Here we go. So run next. So you can see that it runs the code remotely, but I get all the results here locally. And that is how you can be a road warrior on an iPad and not to bring your laptop anymore ever again.